Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. Alright, it's episode 1518, holy cow, that's a lot of episodes. And today we are continuing our series of looks at Solo: A Star Wars Story, the expanded edition, the novelization that's coming out next week. And the last excerpt we're going to look at is the one that starts to build the connections between Enfys Nest's Cloud Riders, try saying that 5 times fast, and Saw Gerrera's Partisans. So let's dig into it. There was a brief and tenuous link in Solo: A Star Wars Story, the movie version. That's Tubes, the character that we know as Edrio Two Tubes from Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, who was part of the Partisans with Saw. That person is also part of Enfys Nest's Cloud Riders. So at some point, Edrio Two Tubes took leave from the Cloud Riders and became part of the Partisans. We don't necessarily know if that means Cloud Riders ceased to be or if it was just, hey, these guys are more extreme, because there is a bit of a delineation established between the Cloud Riders and the Partisans in this scene from the expanded edition of Solo: A Star Wars Story, the novelization, where you get the idea that what Saw is after is definitely of a different caliber and level of rebellion than what Enfys Nest has in mind. And probably the divide between Enfys Nest's approach and Saw Gerrera's approach is best illustrated when Enfys Nest talks about the coaxium and says, you know, it's enough to power a fleet and it can do a lot of good, to which Saw replies, it can also do a lot of harm, which is what we need. And Enfys feels the need herself to say something about his methods and that he's going to need a little bit more attention to detail, which, if you read between the lines, or at least my reading between the lines of it, suggests that what Enfys is saying is that he needs to be sure that what he's using it for, or whatever damage he's trying to cause, has to be damage against the Empire itself and not against civilian casualties, which is something that Saw Gerrera is very well known for at this point, or at least, you know, maybe not at the point of when that exchange is happening so much, but certainly as Saw's fight goes on, he has made it clear that he does not discriminate between civilian targets and Empire targets. He is just going after the Empire, and any civilians that happen to be in the way, well, that's too bad for them. And I have to say, out of this passage, I think the thing that jumps most for me is that I want to know more about Enfys Nest and how she and her Cloud Riders become involved in the rebellion, or even if they make it to the rebellion at all. There is a ship, you know, and that's something that we learn about in the Solo: A Star Wars Story official guide. Like, they're not just based on the planet and flying around swoop bikes or whatever. Like, they actually have a larger ship to take them from place to place. So it's not like they're without resources or anything like that. So, you know, I'm very curious to find out if they are one of the rebel cells that eventually gets integrated into the larger alliance to restore the Republic. And in addition to this link between Saw Gerrera and Enfys Nest, there's another link that's made between this and Rogue One as well, and I'm going to get into that after the break. Stay tuned. Hey Rebel Rouser, have you ever wanted to take a land speeder for a spin, or maybe even the Millennium Falcon itself? Well, here's the next best thing. You can make your own custom Solo: A Star Wars Story inspired Nissan with the best in galaxy customizer. Just go to sw7x7.com/custom to customize and share your own Star Wars inspired vehicle. And don't forget, Solo: A Star Wars Story is coming home on digital September 14th, Blu-ray September 25th, and new on 4K Ultra HD as well. Welcome back. So, Saw Gerrera was supposed to come alone to this meeting, but he did not. Instead, it turns out that his ward wanted to come with him, and his ward is, of course, none other than Jyn Erso. Little Jyn Erso is 11 years old when she arrives at this meeting with Enfys Nest and the Cloud Riders, and that means that she is 3 years removed from having been rescued on Lamu, and she is 5 years away from being abandoned by Saw Gerrera at this point. And this is a time period that's covered in the novel Rebel Rising by Beth Revis, but obviously, you know, because novels are novels, and when they cover a lot of chronological territory, they can't include every last aspect of things. But this is not something that's covered in Rebel Rising, and so it's something that just fits in someplace within that narrative. But, you know, that's one of those things where You see how Lucasfilm operates, and you know that they like to seed in things here and there. And that's one where I kind of wish there had been an opportunity to see just a little bit of a thing about the Cloud Riders or Enfys Nest inside Rebel Rising. It would have been pretty amazing for them to pull off that stunt, but obviously, timing wise, with Rogue One coming out in 2016 and Rebel Rising, not too far off from that, and Solo being in development and all the stuff, it's kind of hard to pull off that kind of stunt, but sometimes there's enough time in the planning to be able to do that. I don't think there might have been in this case, but that would have been pretty remarkable if they'd managed to pull off that stunt this time around too. And that is going to do it for this episode. Now, tomorrow we will do an episode 9 update, so be sure to subscribe if you are not a subscriber already to the show wherever you happen to be checking it out. Please do subscribe to make sure that you get the next one and the next one and the next one. And if you are enjoying the show, then please do consider putting a tip in the tip jar at patreon.com/SW7X7. That's patreon.com/SW7X7. So now it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018 Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it!